The first thing is that Mau Mau movement was not unique in Africa. It was was a part of the liberation movement. The Kenyatta leadership was composed of the former Home Guards. And the only way they tried peacefully actually to get to discuss, to talk to the British, to demand independence, yet the British colonialists actually refused. Sometimes it's better beating than actually psychological torture. Then you are kept there, no food, naked, and you are facing these people there. You are naked, completely naked. First armed struggle in Africa. It was first armed struggle movement in Africa to challenge British colonialism in Africa. I think is very important that we should discuss this issue, because many people don't know what Mau Mau was. Others ignore, and there are others who actually have written books, distorted our history, and try to write the history of the British colonialism in our country. I think it's very important that this subject should be debated, and it is important that the Kenyan people should know their history, not the history which they are told by their oppressor, the British, and those Africans who support British colonialism, but from actually the African historian, from Kenyan historian. It is people's history. The Mau Mau movement started when I was young, and I was very much, as a young person, as young kids, I was very much involved because both my parents were involved in the Mau Mau. My father spent 9 years in British colonial detention center because of being a member of the Mau Mau movement. My mother spent more than 6 months in a British colonial detention center for being member of Mau Mau movement, of the Mau Mau movement. And therefore you can see that we are part of, the whole family was part of the Mau Mau movement. And I became, when I grew a little bit, I was given oath like everybody else, like every kid in the family. And my job, once I became a member, was actually to carry messages to the leaders of the Mau Mau movement, to carry information, letters, and of course I became part of that and I enjoyed the thing. I became patriotic. I think I was 14, 15, between there. So I was not that small, like people have been thinking.
Which means after you grew up, you realized that there were many lies which were written, and many people seemed like they didn't want to know about it, or they knew but they would rather just keep quiet.
Yes, there were two things. One, that the lies which were told by the British historians, and in particular those actually who fought against the Mau Mau, people like Dr. Leakey, which actually was a special branch who has written 2 books on the Mau Mau, but pure lies. The others was actually I felt that the people, that the Mau Mau history has not been written, and therefore I feel that I'll make contribution to the Kenya history by writing this chapter. The first thing is that Mau Mau movement was not unique in Africa. It was part of the liberation movement in the third world. The people of Kenya wanted independence. And the only way they tried peacefully actually to get to discuss, to talk to the British, to demand independence. Yet the British colonialists actually refused. The only way they felt they could get their own independent uhuru is basically to take arms against British colonialism. And therefore, Mau Mau was the first armed struggle in Africa. It was the first armed struggle movement in Africa to challenge British colonialism in Africa. And it actually forced the British to change its colonial policy in Africa to accept the compromise with African leaders. So it was very important that it was able actually to change the British colonial policy in Africa. First thing, let me say that there has been history. Africa has written their own history. There are no people in the world who do not have their own history. Let's first put that clear. The people who say that we did not history are the people who actually conquered Africa, dominate us, and in order actually to dominate us, they dismiss our history. They try to actually to uproot us, and to cut us from our historical roots, and therefore it's fallacy, it's false for anybody to say that Africa did not have history. And two, if you study very well, there are two ways of studying African history or any other history. One is actually to study oral history of the people, and then you write it. The other one actually is when people are able to write and to read, you can study their documents, and therefore you can be able to write the history by studying what they have written, what they have said. And oral history are composed of so many things. If you study people's songs which they sing, people's productives, the way they do their work, those kind of things. It actually, oral history is all you study, all the activity of the people. We are saying oral history is when people do not have a written document. Like in Kenya, when I was doing Mau Mau movement, did not have basically people did not know how to write or to read. The only thing they had actually is oral history, and the songs became very important documents, because you could actually study them, do research on them, and be able from them to actually to capture the essence of what their feelings and what their demands, those kind of things. We are dealing with the peasant here. It's not basically just people. The only thing you can be able in a peasant community where people cannot read is basically actually to study, particularly in Mau Mau case, actually the Mau Mau history be very much expressed in songs, in poems, which actually were done. And these songs were part of the struggle. They were not outside the struggle. And therefore, once you study the song, you can study the essence of the Mau Mau movement. Their ideology, because the song were the ideology of the movement. Yeah, there are two ways. One is those historians who support new colonial state, who actually we call them official historians. The people who actually want to distort the Mau Mau movement in order actually to benefit from it. Like the government of Kenya does not want people to know about Mau Mau, because if they know, they'll basically become politicized, they become political, and they'll be able actually to ask some questions which the government cannot able. So there are those historians who actually support the new colonial regime in Kenya, the line which actually the regime has taken. Basically, both Kinyatti and Moi has been anti-Mau Mau from beginning. And therefore, the government, those two governments, Kenyatta's government and the Moi's government, they were actually government of the home guards. The people actually fought against the Mau Mau. And therefore, there has been those historians, who has been basically writing, like you take like William Ocheng, Professor Gott, this actually what you call official historian who actually distorted. And in order to do that, they dismiss the Mau Mau as a tribal affair or Kikuyu affair, basically to distort the essence of the movement. None of them had done any research on the Mau Mau movement. Or what they have done actually, they use the colonial writings actually to distort the Mau Mau movement. That's what I'm saying, that you fight those most Kenyans, those who actually special Kenyan historians who actually have taken that position of anti-Mau Mau, basically they haven't done any research at all. And if they have done research, they will see that even if they look at the songs basically are clear. They were ideology of the movement. And you can hear one part of this. The song is called We'll Find Win. And this says, if you are asked whether you are an African, firmly lift your two hands high and assert categorically you are an African. And in Kikuyu say, O Gilio, kana ole modo moiro, woya moko mere na igoro, ugeni yede modo moiro. Basically, it's what it is. And the idea is that the mere is just to distort Mau Mau history.
When you started doing the research, did you ever think or had a slight thought that you might get into trouble with the government?
No, I thought, no, I did this. Let me explain now. In Kenya, if you want to do any historical research, you have to go to the government office, the president office, to get permit to do research. And of course that basically control our freedom, because really to do research you really don't have to, but in Kenya there is that they insist that you have to report to tell the government you're doing this research. I filled the form, which actually was supposed to be filled, and I took it to the president office, And after 14 days I was called and told that they don't think, they told me, I'm a quote, that I should really do research on that subject, because actually basically everybody in Kenya fought for independence, and that my research will not benefit, it will not contribute to the national building. So they asked me, can't you find another topic, like dealing with economics or culture or something like that? I told him, no, I just want to, I'm a historian, I'm interested in actually doing this chapter of our history. And they say no. So they actually rejected my
proposal.
Yeah, my proposal. And therefore I decided, no, I'm going to continue working on the proposal secretly.